Yeah, it's a bit ironic, isn't it? You're watching a YouTube video about how watching too many YouTube videos might be the very thing quietly derailing your whole move to France. Please stick with me because this isn't a lecture. It's more of a mirror, I guess. By the time the dream of France really takes hold, most people have seen more of other people's moves than they have of France itself. They've spent evenings in the kitchen, glass of Bordeaux in hand, clicking through videos of couples wandering through little villages, buying croissants, chatting to friendly neighbors, and it's comforting, right? It's reassurance that other normal people have done it and that it's possible. But there's a problem. All of this. When you absorb too much of other people's dreams, you start to lose sight of your own. You start designing your move around what looks like a good life in France, not what feels like one for you. And that's where the meat factory begins. You see, the algorithm rewards sameness. It takes what people click on, the same cobbled lanes, the same lavender fields, the same "we left this all behind" narrative, and multiplies it. It keeps feeding you the same story until it becomes the only story. And before you know it, you've started copying it. Now, I don't blame anyone for that. It's human. We kind of crave models. We crave validation, especially when we're about to make a huge decision that will define the next chapter of our lives. But what that kind of research often does is rob you of the one thing that matters most. It's your own sense of reality. Because when you watch hours of these videos, you don't just learn about France, you start to inherit someone else's interpretation of it. Their joy becomes your target. Their challenges become your fears. Their decisions start to look like rules. I've seen this play out so many times. People show up on a call and say things like, "We saw a couple in Besançon and it looked really beautiful. That's where we want to move." Or, "We watched a story about someone who bought in the lot and had a nightmare with the house, so we've ruled that region out completely." And I'll listen because I understand where it comes from. But inside I'm thinking, this is like algorithmic thinking. It's not intentional living. I'm not having a conversation with you right now. You've been trained to make a life decision the way you make a playlist on Spotify. There's a client I think of often, Arthur. He bought a home in the southwest of France after losing his son. It wasn't an escape, it was an act of meaning. He wanted to build something that could become part of a charity in his son's name. What I loved about Arthur was that he let the French process do the thing, or do its thing. He didn't over-engineer it. He didn't try to shortcut it. He understood that some of the things take time and that time itself is part of the filtering. It wasn't about being seen to move to France. It was about what France could give back to his own story, and that's the big distinction. Arthur wasn't on the conveyor belt. He wasn't comparing himself to anyone. He just built something that made sense for him. When people outsource their thinking to YouTube, it looks very different. They collect anecdotes instead of information. They adopt other people's caution and excitement without the context. They start to believe that one couple's experience of French healthcare or cost of living or administration is somehow universal, but it isn't. Most of it isn't even that critical. There's more than one way to get almost everything done in France. Don't get me wrong, critical thinking isn't about cynicism. It's about asking, what kind of life am I actually trying to build here? And does this place allow me to live it? And that's where I think my parents' story comes in. They were huge fans of the Place in the Sun show and the Grand Designs TV shows in the UK. They moved to France when I was little, convinced that taking on an ambitious renovation project was the only way to make this dream real, because that's what the story said. It was brave, it was romantic, it was the only version they'd been shown, but it came with years of exhaustion and hadn't been planned for. It's just that familiarity made the idea feel safe, but familiarity can be dangerous. It sort of tricks you into thinking ignition equals alignment. I see it again today, people scrolling property portals at 2 a.m, unable to sleep, jumping from region to region, video to video, trying to quiet the noise in their heads by feeding it more information. And if that's you, I get it. But if I could whisper something to you at that moment, it would be this. Pick a handful of places based on what actually matters to you. The weather, the community, the transport links, the budget, the property sizes. Then book a trip. Go and see them. Use that energy to talk to real people and not just watch other people talk on cameras, because This isn't about building a fantasy. It's about testing your future. I've seen what happens when people do that. There was one couple who rented long-term in Besançon after falling in love with a YouTube video. They didn't have a car. They didn't realize how small the community was and struggled when winter came. Financially, it made sense, but socially, it broke them. Another couple did it differently. They explored Strasbourg, Dijon, and Besançon over a couple of months, trying each one for size. They realized Dijon gave them the best balance of budget, social life, accessibility, and weather. They signed a rental there, joined the local pétanque club, amazingly, and used their weekends to explore other regions. They didn't rush. They designed their move for them. And that's the key. When you move intentionally, you don't get trapped by someone else's highlight reel. You start building your own. Because this whole thing, moving to France, it's not a race or a statement. It's a design challenge, a chance to create something that fits your stage of life, your values, your energy. So don't let someone else sculpt your golden years, you know? Don't let their nostalgia become your next decade, because maybe that's what we've lost in all of this, the permission to think for ourselves. And if you're watching this and you find yourself saying, I feel like I was following someone else's dream retirement rather than my own, then you're exactly where you need to be. Not anymore. Thanks for watching, guys. Good luck.